Thank you guys for coming back to join me on Saving America's Money. Happy to be with you on this Sunday afternoon. Today, I'm going to dedicate Sundays for a conversation for kind of a recap of some of the things that I thought were interesting this week. And it's loud, excuse me, haven't got a microphone yet, so the microphone you're going to hear me talking on is going to be from the camera. So if it's a little awkward, just please stay patient with this filming today. But, one of the things that I really wanted to discuss is the question of how Americans are actually feeling with the current economy. And what I mean by that is, that the markets are up and inflation is going down, but it still seems like and feels like, the checks are not enough, right? That our dollars only go so far. And oh, by the way, I'm walking downtown Oakland, and you're gonna join me on this tour as we kind of talk about how people are feeling about today's economy. And I think the reason why I wanted to walk downtown Oakland is because the story that I'm going to tell has a lot to do with a once amazing, bustling city. Not to say that Oakland is. It still has a lot of great things to offer. But the economy in Oakland has been decimated. And you'll see why in a bit. But let's get back to, kind of the thought process of how people are feeling, how you may feel, right? I know, thinking about careers and going into work every day, we feel like we've done everything right. And for a lot of you, you have done everything right. So it's not your fault. It's not any of our faults. The game plan was told and we followed it. And for that, you should congratulate yourself. And the system that we're operating under is a system that doesn't allow for the average person, I could say this, being one of those people in time, to really get ahead on maybe one income. I think about stories I've heard from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s where the husband would go out and go to work, and mom or wife would stay at home and cook, clean, and do the dishes, and these things were acceptable, and one income could really handle the household expenses. Now we live in an era where one income is simply not enough. Actually, two incomes may not be enough. And with that particular type of system that we live in, it becomes apparent that it's not the people who are broken, right? I think most of us put the best foot forward. It's the system that we live in. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk about and discuss is, every 4 years there is a voting change. A new president or administration comes in, or maybe the same one. But every 4 to 8 years there is a new idea. I think one of the things that I would ask maybe this administration and the next one after that is, whatever we decide to do, let's just do that. See, the problem with America is that it's always changing philosophies, right? It's always, coming up with the next big idea. And there's a lot of empty promises. And I think people are just tired of that. I think we're all tired of the empty promises. We want, to see real change. I remember a president talked about real change is coming. In my opinion, change got worse. But whatever platforms that, people decide to run on, is we need to make sure that the system that we have created for ourselves is a system that we follow. I don't know if that makes sense, right? And I'm not going to get too much into the weeds about what system this is and where we're going into it. I mean, we'll discuss that on our next Sunday conversation. But I do want to think about like why like a city like Oakland, California, and a bustling city with well over 1 million people, I can feel it because I live here, has a broken economy where the city has pretty much been, running under budget, right, or in a deficit. The school system here has closed more schools than it can open. City politics has pretty much talked about solving issues that I don't think Oakland can honestly solve. And when we talk about, let's say, like even homelessness, that's not one city's job to create that solution. Obviously, it's the state of California. We know how we feel about what's going on here in the state of California. But with the economy, it's the reason why so many people are becoming in debt. It's the reason why people are allowing their credit cards to, default, or loans or car notes. Because at the end of the day, we have to kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. And it's unfair because a lot of us go to work, pay our bills, pay our taxes. Funny thing about taxes is, me and my wife were talking about this, and we filed taxes like in 2021. And you don't know if you owe because no one's, knocking at your door. And all of a sudden, 5 months ago, we get this, you owe for 2021. And we're like why? Our tax advisor didn't make a mistake. So this, like I said, the system's always changing and creating new rules, right? But the real problem that I see is if the rules keep changing, that America is never really going to get ahead. We just passed the federal building of Oakland. If you see behind me, the brown building here. Now we're in kind of the Oakland city government. We'll walk through this really quick, get an idea. Hopefully I don't get hit by a car. Just ran a green light. But, when you look at the economy around even a city like Oakland, California, and you just see that there's just something missing, right? And the bedrock of this nation was built on small businesses. And when small businesses take a hit and they actually stop producing, incomes for their business owners and families, what ends up happening is employees don't have places to work. And when employees don't have places to work, you get other type of problems that cities, I don't think, are ready to handle, right? And so it's very apparent that the economy around a city is solely really based on the small businesses, the things that has to offer. Because again, like Oakland is really like a tourist attraction. It could be, right? It's a residential city. It's a place where people work here, they live here, but we don't really do much else. And like I said, I could be rambling a little bit of what I mean about that, but like you'll see in a minute from the place I'm going to take you, where there's lines and lines of empty buildings, empty storefronts, where one I'm about to pass right now was a young lady. Shout out to her. I can't remember her name, but she used to operate out of this storefront right here, available restaurant. And you see a lot of this stuff. Her store was right there where that gentleman is standing. This is the Rotunda building. Here, you have Oakland's Capitol building, where the mayor does absolutely nothing, in my opinion. But that's another conversation. So, oh great, I get to walk next to the guys who are going to be riding their sports bikes. So you guys get to see a little bit of Oakland culture at its finest. Yeah, but if the small business is decimated, typically after that, you start to see the bigger problems: homelessness, prostitution, things like that. Things that cities, like I said, can't handle. And this goes all the way back to the original topic of why it feels so hard. Like why it feels like no one can get ahead. And I just think the economy is not really what it is supposed to all cracked up to be. That there's still too much inflation and not enough job and wage growth. And when you don't have enough job and wage growth, and we also really do know that the job market isn't hiring as it used to, then I think ultimately you kind of got people feeling a little stuck. So, take it with a grain of salt. But what I'm talking about isn't pessimism. It's reality, right? The reality is that the economy has to make a major shift in the system that we're living under. Because if the system that we're living under continues to go this way, well, old school C28, I hear you. If the system that we continue to live under completely breaks down, then there might be a time where hyperinflation sets in. And if you haven't seen what hyperinflation has done to a country, go check out, videos of Venezuela. Right? There's a reason why those people were celebrating, because over the past, 3 decades, they've been monetarily abandoned. And I don't care who you are, if that is something you're rooting for, then you really need to think about who you are. What you're going to see really quick as we kind of come to a close here is I'm going to show you some parts of Oakland that I think you might be interested in, and some parts of Oakland you may have seen in a movie or two, as I cross the street and fix my camera on some of these things. This is a amazing art and culture. You get a lot of murals here in Oakland. People are really don't mess with those, which is good. But what you also really get, and you're going to see a lot of this, is for lease signs. Oak Stop is a wonderful tech and art space where people can come in and kind of do work. I can't remember the exact word I want to use, but you know what I mean. You have, what you're going to see in a second, is the old Fox Theater. If you've ever seen the movie Transformers, in one of the sequels, they had Optimus Prime in an old theater. Well, that old theater was the one I'm about to show you, is the Fox. And a real treasure of Oakland. Actually, I just passed a old friend of mine's bar that really spurred the economic growth here in downtown Oakland, which I'm proud to say I was a part of, because I used to throw parties and shows in Oakland. So here's a photo of the Fox. There's still shows going on to this day, so hopefully that never changes, but who knows with this place. This is a good friend of mine's bar here, Desi's Lounge by Dope Era. Shout out to Mr. Fab. One of the things I'm going to show you really quick was a real mishap by this city, which, again, talking about the economy, to have a decent economy, you have to have economic growth, and have economic growth, you have to have things that people participate in. And unfortunately, people participate in sports, both from a fandom type of like I want to watch, and or actually play. So what I will kind of show you in a second here is this place where we currently have apartments and obviously people playing. They make use of, when I talk about sports here, they go, they're already playing. But this actually used to be a place where the Oakland A's were going to buy this lot standing right behind me. And they were going to buy this lot to put in their stadium. Now, wouldn't it have been cool if that stadium surrounded by the Fox and the Paramount Theater and bustling restaurants and bars really would have grown this area. So if you're, let's say, and living in San Diego or Cleveland or Baltimore, some of these places that have strategically added ballparks to their downtown activities, you would know how much of an economic blessing that was to a lot of business owners and citizens in that area, because somebody has to work, right, for those places to stay open. So, overall, what I feel, you guys, is, we have a lot of work to do, but we have to stay positive, make a plan, and ultimately know that, things can and will get better, but we have to have one system. And that system, whatever it is, if it's threatened by people who want to change the system or send our money, overseas to places like that, we have to say no to those people. I mean, let's take care of us first. Let's do the things that make sure that people can, have good jobs and schools and all the things that we want to see before we take care of other people. So with that being said, guys, this is Saving America's Money. I hope you enjoyed my conversation today. We'll be doing this every Sunday to make sure that I stay locked in for what you guys are looking for. So with that being said, stay strong, stay safe, and continue to save America's money. Peace.